Hi, and welcome to another episode of Starburst TV. Today, joining me on the show is Abhishek Nahar. He is a senior technical product owner over at Asurion, and we are going to talk about his journey from a legacy architecture, and we'll define what that was, into what they're calling their modern data platform. And so, like a lot of us, there isn't a smooth journey, right? There's steps along the way, but we're going to focus really in on not just what that journey looked like, but I also want to talk about how data products played a part in that journey. And when you talk about data products, you have to talk about people, you have to talk about change, and how that transition in terms of not just the technology aspects, but also the people aspects were so important. And if we have time, I'd love to hear more about the future and where Abhishek thinks the future modern data platform is coming. So, Abhishek, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Adrian. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be part of the show.
We've been talking about doing a show together for a couple of months. And we were together brainstorming, I think, in one of your conference rooms not too long ago. And I was just so impressed, not just by how far you've come. To me, it feels like a very fast pace, but more importantly, how well you're using that platform, right? And how it's working. And sometimes we talk about the journey, and you read a book or you read an article, and I think sometimes it seems easy, or somebody makes it sound easy, and maybe I'm guilty of that sometimes too when I talk about a pathfinder. But it's wonderful, I think, for the audience to just kind of get some real advice and some real thoughts, and kind of get a feel for the pain and the successes. And so really excited to kind of get into your story. But let's just start. Let's jump right into it, right? Let's describe to us in your terms kind of where you started and what that journey was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I look back, I mean, it is really fascinating when I look back and see the technical advancement we have made in the data industry to get us to a point where we are, now utilizing all the power with data, not just for analytics and machine learning, but also for generative AI space, where we are generating new content every day, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
for
in my
sure.
experience, right, over the several years, I've seen organization investing heavily, in evolving their data platform to meet the growing demands of their customers. You know, long before we could even think of a data platform, analysts were still using the traditional ways of, using a spreadsheet or a database to generate insights for the organization, right? But they could not withstand the rapid surge of data, and they could not, you know, meet the demands, increasing demands of executive to do more with data. So I
Yeah.
think that's where the big data got into the mix, right? Where all of a sudden this infrastructure was available to process large volume of data at scale, in a distributed fashion, in a cost optimized fashion. And then cloud computing happened, right? Which gave you the flexibility to, build your infrastructure without having to worry about upfront investment. So I think all of these advancements in technology sort of gave birth to a concept of modern data platform, right? Which could process the huge amount of data, at the same time keep the security at the forefront of it, and think about not just using structured data, but thinking about non-structured data and things like that. So I have personally witnessed this long journey across two of my organizations, specifically at Asurion. We have come a long way. Asurion is one of those companies, who wants to be at the forefront of things, and uses technology as the tool to deliver greater customer experience. You know, at Asurion, we started the same way as most of the companies did, our organization did, where there was a need for analytics, and analysts went to a database and started, doing their query, doing their analysis, building reports, and then they realized they need more data. So data from across different databases within the organizations was replicated over to the same database. That was the way. I mean, that was the way I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago, right? But it had several limitations. It could not scale. Performance was a concern. It was still an on-premise infrastructure where you cannot make significant investment to bring the infrastructure up at a short notice. Flexibility was a concern. You could only do as much with the databases, right? And only similar type of databases. Collaboration was tricky. All of those things. It worked fine until it didn't.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a accidental architecture, which people were using, and then we realized we need to really get out of this accidental architecture and think intentionally about building a data platform, which first of all, overcomes all of these limitations, and at the same time, it gives us an ability to move forward, do more things with the data, not just, be behind and, providing the capability to our users, right? So we did our first intentional attempt at building a data platform. And I think it was back 2015, 2016 time, where cloud was still new, and we took baby steps into the giant world of cloud infrastructure. We built the platform, we made rookie mistakes, instead of building a product-based platform, thinking about capabilities, what our customers need, thinking about what is the vision of this platform. We thought technology can solve all of our problem, and we built a technology-centric platform. So it worked great for a bit, but it had its own limitations around data security. I mean, at some places we made our, the security too stringent that it was hard for even us to go and get access to the data which is needed. And at some places it was not as secure. Scalability was concerned, even though it was on cloud, the data sets, bringing in a new data set was overly complex and time consuming. Flexibility was concerned. It was designed to work in a specific way. If you had to think about doing things little differently, you had to make significant investment to make all of those changes. Compute and storage was tied together. I think that was one of the most key, learnings which we had, where, even though it worked, the cost was a concern because your compute and storage was tied together. Data duplication was concerned, because of the way we had our primary data storage, it was not structured to have fine-grained access. But when you are trying to think of a data platform, data would be accessed by different segment of the people in the company. So we had to duplicate the data, move it to an object storage, and do the fine-grained access control. And then lastly, but not least, virtualization was not thought through. We had 3 different ways of how people were accessing this data, and it was hard to keep up with all of those different ways, and it was hard to change the habits of people because they were used to doing things in a different way. So I think in the hindsight, I think when I look back, we were too early in the game. We tried to build a modern data platform using the latest and greatest technology, but I think industry was not as evolved at the time. There were not enough solutions out there to solve our use cases. We tried to build things on our own, as well as there was not enough information out there, right? It was just, we're trying to build on it on. But I think it worked for a bit, and it solved our immediate concerns. And, but we realized we had to quickly, embark onto a new journey, which is the latest modern data platform, which is our latest platform. I think we embarked on that journey sometime in the time frame of 2019, 2020. I think this was a great time in the industry. I think technology was evolved immensely. There were solutions available for us to consider as we were thinking about this new platform. We did not have to write everything on our own. We had things available for us to leverage, utilize, and build this new platform. We applied all of our learnings from our previous experiences, started designing a new platform, keeping the security, flexibility, and scalability at the center of it. This time we focused on a product-centric platform, where we focused more on the capabilities than on the technology behind the product. We knew processing huge amount of data, was a key to quickly, to get faster data to our customers. So we thought about it. We intentionally thought about it, evaluated multiple technology, and and settled with using Spark as our backbone for processing engine, which was great. Which is still great. We knew storage of data was the next concern, not just from an accessibility perspective, but from a cost perspective. We settled with using object storage as the, as the easy to manage and govern the means of storage, which was cost friendly. And then data virtualization. I think this was one of the biggest consideration from our previous experiences, where we wanted to intentionally build something which can be long-lived, and we could withstand the turbulence in the technology. We wanted to build something which is flexible, which can adapt with the change, and as well as transparent to our customers. And I think that's where Starburst came in for rescue. We are using Starburst as our only virtualization solution for exposing our data out to the customers. It can seamlessly integrate with multiple technologies, so it gives us an edge as we think of changes we have to do, even in future, and not worry about how would it impact our customers if we have to make any change at the back end. And then one last thing, I think this is a lot, right? And then
That's good.
we thought, now we have this beautiful data platform. There are thousands of data assets in this platform. How do I make it easy for our customers to know what is in the platform? How do I, we have thousands of data assets. What is where, right? So we thought about building a data discovery platform, which is something which I'm really proud of. It is an homegrown product which we build, which keeps track of all the thousands of assets which are being created on the platform on a daily basis. It is real time. It keeps track of everything which is being built, everything which is running, gives you the status, so whether it is current or not, and who are the data stewards of this data sets. You can reach out. Who is the person to answer questions about this particular data product, things like that. So that's the long story, right?
Wow. I love the story. I think that's the longest anyone has ever spoken on one of my shows, and I say that because it's you gave us a full story, and I love it, and now I get to dissect some of the pieces and underscore some of the pieces. And so there was a reoccurring theme there, I think. Certainly security, right? You probably said that 10 times, right? And so we didn't sacrifice security, right? Security was built in end to end. Flexibility or agility was another key theme you talked about. Was we didn't want to build something that we were then going to have to replace, or that we was going to then have to that we were going to have to retrofit to fix with something else. So to speak, we wanted to create a flexible, agile platform that was going to work with what we have today and also work with what we plan to come into the future. And so that's another kind of key aspect. The thing I heard you talk about a little bit as well over a few times, I would say, is the consumer, right? We took and I love the way you worded it, a product focused approach versus a technology approach, right? And so we focused on the consumer instead of saying, let's figure out all these cool technical capabilities and features that we can add. Let's focus on the features and capabilities and requirements that the consumers need, right? What do they need right now? And so, and that last piece you mentioned, this discovery tool, I'm sure it's all about the consumer, right? That isn't to make it easier for the architect, although I'm sure the architects can use it also, but it's primarily to make it easier for the consumer to quickly find and leverage the data they want. And so I love the story. If I pause for a second, and I'm going to go left to right, starting with the back end, right? Just kind of replaying the story a little bit. So on our back end, I think it's primarily an Amazon kind of private environment, right? So it's Amazon, and we have lakes and we have warehouses and a lot of different types of data sources. And you're using Starburst to kind of federate across those tools.
Correct. Yeah.
And the problem is what it sounds like that we had before was, and I had to, as a former CDO, my problem was, and I think we were similar in this regard, is that at one point we had built these perfect big lakes for our business teams. And I love the way it worked until it didn't, right? They loved them initially. They were cheaper. They were easy to operate. They were popping up all over the place. But each of our lines of business had their own lake that they were running, and it was fast and it was reliable and it was secure. It checked all the boxes. It worked until it didn't. And when it didn't work, when it stopped working for us, was when I needed to start to democratize, or when I needed to start to share data across those lakes, because then merging them was going to create a lot of disruption for my business teams. I got to change my data models. I got to change all the stuff they're currently doing. And so now trying to work across lakes, or trying to work across lakes and warehouses, or lakes and warehouses and databases and apps, it worked until it didn't, right? And that virtualization layer that you mentioned, I think it sounds like that's really been a game changer for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you got it right. I think you have all this data, right? I mean, you have data coming in from different sources. You have your own warehouse created, and then you have all these data products created for a specific data domain. How do you arrange them or make it accessible to users so that, first of all, they can get access to what they should, and at the same time, they do not get access to what they should not, right?
Right.
That was a primary concern. And, that is something which we really overcome using Starburst. And we are still learning. There are still so many use cases where scratch our head and think, okay, how do I solve for this, right? But it is learning and it is growing and it is helping. Starburst has been at the center of it.
Awesome. I want to start getting into the data product story a little bit because I think that was also a big part of what you were doing. And so we talked about the back end, a lot of different sources, primarily, even though we're all in Amazon, it's still a lot of different sources. The ability to federate across them and create this abstraction layer. And as you talk about your modern data platform, this virtual layer or this abstraction layer, I think, we say it's a modern data platform. I'm done. I'm not going to make any more changes. No. It's a modern data platform means it's agile. It means that my abstraction layer is going to allow me to make changes if I need to in the back, right? So if I need to make a change in the back, I can do it without creating an inconvenience for my consumer, right? That's my modern data platform, is that I can sustain it and it's agile and I continue to deliver with new features for my business consumers, deliver a valuable product without letting the back end affect me. Data products, right? And is a big part of your story. And we were talking about that. We've had these conversations before. Let's dig into that because, and I'm stealing your words a little bit here, but I've heard you talk about, and hopefully we can talk about it now as well, about how your data product adoption or your data product evolution was not all about technology. It was largely about people and largely about enablement. So let me pause there. I'll steal everything you're going to say because I've heard the story, but share with the audience a little bit about that data product story and how it fit into that modern data platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think once you have a rock solid foundational layer in terms of a data platform or a virtualization layer figured out, right? We thought what more we can do to make our data teams more efficient, right? And that's where the concept of data products came in. Data products have become a really pivotal component to this modern journey of data across different organizations and various industries. They have transformed the way business operates and make decisions. The importance of data products lies in their ability to harness the data and turn it into an actionable intelligence, and which eventually leads to improved efficiency, innovation, and several different things, right? So specifically within the context of Asurion, we have strategically organized our operational structure around the data product teams, deliberately diverging from a traditional journey team or a scrum team or a squad mindset, right? This distinctive approach, helps us underscore our commitment to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of our data-driven initiatives, and all while continuing to focus on the specific domains of data. When I say the data domains, I'm talking about the units within the organizations like marketing, finance, customer experience, all of these specific domains. All of them have their own specific data needs. They may not be similar. They would be very custom to their specific use case, but behind the scene, all of them still want to do the same thing and use the same platform, right? And either, aggregate their data, curate their data, and build reports, which can bring visibility to the executive and eventually help with the better decision making, right? So the essence of this approach lies in providing not only our team, but also our customers with the crystal clear vision of each of these data product teams. What are their specific focus areas? By narrowing these focus areas to a specific data domain, we ensure that everybody involved, comprehends the exact areas which these teams are supposed to focus on. The overarching objective of our, this whole structure is to infuse the product oriented mind, thinking into the realm of data, right? We're treating each of our data marts or data reports, to be a distinct data product. These product will be crafted, nurtured, and curated with the principles of product development, right? The modification or a creation of a new data product will only happen if there is an intrinsic value associated with a data product. So that's the thought process behind the data products, and then and this is helping. I think this is helping. It is bringing a lot of cohesion between the consumers, the data, who are the the users of these data products which we are building. They like it. They feel we are more focused, right? As well as at the same time, it works for us, because we have a clear distinction of who is working on what.
I want to come back to a couple of points. There's a balance that we always talk about when we're talking about data mastery, data products, and domains. The objective, one of the big visions, so to speak, is the idea of being able to create a central platform um, that can then be used by a lot of different teams. So that, again, it's easy. Hold on a second. What I mean by used by different teams is they're not just using the technology, they're reusing the data. And so we've created a modern data platform, Asurion has, that your domain teams may have very different objectives, very different product goals, but they have access to the same aggregated data sets. And so here's a data product that has customer information, and it may be pulling a table from that data warehouse and a table from that lake and a column from some other system, but it's been aggregated in a nicely curated data product. And you have teams in, your customer teams or your finance teams or other teams that are maybe using the same data product, and they're using the same data product for different purposes, but they're getting a great benefit by not having to recreate it. Number one, great benefit by driving consistency. Number two, but even better, and this kind of comes to your latter point, there is, if there's something they don't like about it, if they want to change something, if they want to innovate something, it's very easy to do, right? And so without having to go hire another data scientist or build me a data model, I love sitting in front of customers and saying, let's change a data product, and being able to do it right there, right? And saying, let's adjust a query, right? And we can create another version similar to the original data product. It's just a different view of the same data. It's not really costing any more money. I'm not having to move a bunch of data anywhere. I'm just giving them a different view of the same core data sets. And so I just think that agility is powerful, because if they create something new, they share it back. And then we'll talk a bit more about your discovery lens there as well, and how you people discover it. But to me, I think that innovation, right, the ability to use a centralized platform so we can all build from the abstraction layer, the ability to share what other people have done, I can quickly find it, the ability to create my own and share it back, man, I mean, that's it. That's the goal. And so it sounds like you guys, now we never want to say we're there, but you're there, you're close.
Yeah, we are close. I think we are close, still not there. There's still a lot of improvements which we are trying to make. But I think you got the gist of it, right? I think the important point is, even though all of these are separate data product teams with a dedicated focus, but they are still using the same data platform and conceptually using the same principles to solve all of their problems, right? So each of these data product team consists of a product owner, analyst, and engineers. They are all diverse set of people with a distinct thought process. They all come together and brainstorm around what are the specific data sets we need to build, right? Yeah. And then collectively we get a end result which is out of the box, right? Which is so valuable for our customers. And the one good thing is, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Each domain team, does each domain team have their own data engineer assigned to them to build their data products, or how do they build their data products?
Yeah, so that's the structure part. So the way we have ourselves structured is, so we have data product teams, and they have all these three different personas in each of these teams. Okay. So that's vertical, so these are the vertical pillars for the data platform. But horizontally, they are still structured as a product chapter or an analyst chapter or an engineering chapter. So even though,
the disciplines,
they are vertical, but they are also horizontal. Yeah? So we have this great mixture of, having to work in a specific domain, but at the same time following the same chapter, so that that's the same knowledge which is being shared all across.
Yeah, because they can accelerate their personal growth, if you will, their capabilities and skills together. They're part of a community, a horizontal community of data engineers or a horizontal community of data product owners. Yeah, I love it. Even though they're each committed to a specific product focus within their domains. Awesome. And how many domains let's start with domains. How many domains do you guys currently work with?
I think I don't remember exactly, but I think we have at least 10 to 15 different domains which we are supporting on our platform. Not all of those have a dedicated data product team, but still I think there are 10, 15 different teams, and there are more domains more than that.
I like to talk about, and I sometimes brag about what people could do, and I love talking about what people are actually doing. And so one of the things I love to talk about is the idea of federating governance within domains. I love designing domains where a specific domain has very tight governance, even to the point for how they publish data products. It may be really, really robust. And I contrast that other domains where you might have a discovery domain or an innovation domain, like a hub, where they don't have that same strict, rule set, so to speak. They can invent 100 data products in a day. None of them get published, but their focus is to run and innovate and invent. So that federated governance allows me to tighten the governance where I need to, and then let them run where I need to. Do all your domains function like that, where the governance that's applied is specific to the kind of data they use and their purpose?
So I think it's a twofold answer. So we have this platform. A basic level of governance has already been developed as part of the platform feature, where you have a set of rule defined, which you have to adhere when you are developing a specific data product. And then once that has been met and, you are building anything new for a specific use case, that's where the data product team, controls how this is going to be governed after that point, right? So it's like a collective ownership. I mean, of course, data product team has the final ownership of how this data is being exposed or governed, but at the same time, there are frameworks and basic processes set to control what is being, shared across the organization.
Awesome. I know you and I have had a lot of very technical conversations on data products, everything from how they're stored to how they're used to how they're secured to how they're masked, and so that's another show possibly that we could get into. But if I try to stick at a high level on data products, the other thought that kind of goes when I think about transformation journeys early on. And so let's go back a year and a half ago when I was just getting started, kind of helping other companies build data products. As a CDO, my mindset was to be very careful and create very rigid rules from the beginning, right? And so when I would write out a run book for data product teams, it was very stringent. Here's how you build them. Here's the process. Here are the steps you go through. What I've learned over time is that I tell companies something very different. My advice is, in this first phase, I rather let teams, I don't want to build 10 domains. I'll start with one domain and a handful of data products. But in the first phase, I like to let teams run. What I mean by that is I don't like to tighten the bolts too much, because I want them to feel free and I want them to go out there and invent. And that allows them to get comfortable. And I think at some point in phase 2 or phase 3 of a journey, then I can come back and then I can start to kind of build some policies and process. But I found it when I do it the other way and I'm too tight up front. I remember this quote in my head. Someone said, Adrian, it doesn't feel any faster than before. And I was like, oh,
Right.
I was like, hit me with a bat, because and so now it's like, you got to let teams run first, and then you build the controls around the process, and you federate it based on what they're doing. So did you find some of that when you first started with data products? Did you let teams run, or were you real stringent from the beginning? Because I think you guys have a ton of data products now.
Yeah. I think so. So there's a saying in our org, it's we have to iterate. I mean, there is no other way than iterate and build, right? I mean, if you think about building a product right from the get-go, like a gold star product, it's never going to happen. Like, I mean, you would spend years and years and you will still not be able to get to that gold standard, right? So that's the philosophy which we try to follow. Going back to your question, where you said, how does it work for us? I think some of it is, so even though we are classifying ourselves as data product team as soon as this year, we were always sort of operating in this mindset, where there are several different domains which we have been focusing on, but we were not as intentional as we are right now about owning these data products. We were previously focusing on the requests or the needs from all of these different domains. And, we were always behind. We were trying to catch up. We were trying to build what is being asked for, instead of, intentionally thinking about how can we do different, how can we do better, that, we create something which our consumers have not even thought about, right? So that's the kind of shift which we are trying to, work on and get into as we think about data products. Own each of these specific data products, and then, bring value to it day in, day out.
I want to close on security, because in every conversation we've ever had, including today, it's dominant. Sometimes when we start to kind of have data product discussions with some teams, the initial perception is we're opening up risk. But once I start to kind of talk to InfoSec or audit teams or compliance teams around about how data products work and how they're secured, it's the opposite. I think teams start to understand, actually, if I'm in an InfoSec team, I was like, hold on a second. So now you're going to aggregate a data set, and you can tell me every single time somebody touches it, and you can tell me where that data came from, and you have a risk profile specific to the aggregated data set. Sometimes we do risk profiles for data pieces, but when you put it together, the risk profile changes. The data product is an accurate risk profile, and you can secure that data product up to the point where even if somebody can open it, they can't see the data because it's masked, or they open it, they can only see a column because the rest is masked. And so you can do really fine-grained security and build access specifically around the data in that data product. So I feel like data products offer us an incredible advantage for security. I'm an old security professional, the hacker in the 90s. They can't do it anymore, but I really appreciate that lens of security and for data products. And I know it's front and center for all of our conversations. And I just think, I think the way that you've approached it is the right way. You're leveraging data products, not just for consumer speed, but also for consumer security. And so I really am impressed by that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you got it right. You can get access to raw data, and along with raw data, you'll get access to everything, right? Which you don't want, right?
No.
That's why you are building data products, which are not as sensitive as the raw data and still get the work done, right? So that's the thought process. That's the mindset. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Awesome. I thank you. Can't thank you enough. Maybe we'll do another show later. But this was really good. The 30 minutes always goes by so quick, but just having the opportunity for the audience to hear about your journey, where you've come from, where you are, the honesty about we were almost there and then we got there. And also the realization that as you said, we're not there yet. And there's still more to come is really exciting. So we'll just stay on this together. We'll summarize and we'll close up. Tell me if I missed something, right? And first and foremost, I want to underscore one of your early statements around a product-centric approach versus a technology-centric. And when you say product, we're thinking about business products, business goals, business objectives, right? And so you took a consumer-focused, product-focused approach to your modern data platform. What features and capabilities do my business teams need, as opposed to a technology approach, which was, what are all the bells and whistles I can turn on, right? And so I think that's super important, especially if you're getting started. I've already harped on it and underscored how important security was to you, but there were some other things that you said were really important, specifically around scalability, agility, and flexibility. It's the acknowledgement that modern data platform isn't something that I'm going to build and it's going to look like this in a year. Modern data platform means that I have the flexibility and agility to adjust with the changes in the back end. And I have the capability and the innovation to allow my businesses to change what they want to do on the front end. More insight, whether it's generative AI or a spreadsheet or whatever, a dashboard, I can allow them to innovate quickly in the back end. I can manage change in the back end. And my modern data platform in the middle is agile enough to adjust, right? That's what I think what we're talking about. The last thing I'll say, I think, is I think teams that are doing this, they need an Abhishek, right? They need they need a person that has the same passion and belief in the model. And so it's great to hear you talk. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Abhishek.
Of course. Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
All right.